morning and good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Before Coffee. It's Monday, almost at the end of October, basically, and we're about to find out what's been going on over the weekend. I guess Halloween weekend, because probably everyone had their parties. Today on Before Coffee, bring your own. What's behind the chronic lack of toilet paper in Italian schools?
In the Western Hemisphere, we update Hurricane Otis.
This French company has designed the first e-bike that doesn't need a battery. And from manufacturer to lifetime emissions, just how green are EVs compared to petrol or diesel cars?
And it's Monday, and we update the Wheel of Squeal. That's right, the Squeal of Fortune gets another spin.
In tragic culture news, Matthew Perry, Emmy-nominated Friends star, is dead at 54.
Those stories and more on today, which I haven't looked up yet, which is, let's see. Today is National Wicked Day, which is October 30th, 2023 on Before Coffee.
First, headline / news story / bring your own toilet paper. That's right. This is from Giulia Carbonaro from Italy, I'm assuming, on Euronews. From toilet paper to soap, Italian schools are often fail to provide basic supplies for their students. Instead, parents are asked for significant contributions to help with funding. That seemed like a terrible situation there, that they can't even afford basic needs for their schools. In many schools across Italy, students heading to the toilets now know there's only one thing they should not forget to bring: their own toilet paper, because they likely won't find any when they get to the cubicles. On TikTok, Italian high schoolers joke about the widespread lack of toilet paper in many schools, celebrating the appearance of a solitary roll as once in a blue moon major event. Other people speak of having to ask the janitor for toilet paper every time they head to the toilets and being allocated just a few sheets instead of an entire roll. In a video on the app, 2 high school students are asked about what's wrong with this country's school system. The infrastructure is old and falling apart. There's often no soap in the toilets. There's no toilet paper, one girl says. That's always the case, the high schooler who was interviewing her replies. This reminds me of the article we read, I think last week or the week before, about how Europe is not helping young people at all, and this is kind of a good example of that. They don't even give these people decent buildings to learn and educate in, and they don't even give them toilet paper. Young people, they'll figure it out. They don't need our help. They need the most help because they don't know what the fuck's going on. They haven't been alive long enough to know what to do. And you're like, they'll figure it out when they're 40. So what if they don't have toilet paper? That's not my problem. I need to worry about my pension. Another Italian TikToker shares with his peers the rights of student schools often fail to respect, including having the right to find soap and toilet paper in the toilets and having heating in the classrooms in winter. You live in Italy, what do you need heating for? Come on. Radiators are often switched off or broken in Italian schools, leading to an occasional student strike during the winter. They're wearing 15 layers so they can just go to math class. Are there really people with toilet paper and soap in the toilets? I didn't even have it in primary school, one user said. In my school, soap is a legend, another responds, and that explains why they had a huge COVID outbreak, I think, now that I think about it, seeing as soap is a legendary acquirement. There was a brief moment in 2016 when this decades-long problem was revealed to the rest of the world, as outraged British newspapers wrote that an Italian primary school had asked children to bring their own toilet roll due to the lack of funding. In Italy, this revelation wasn't a headline news at all, but a problem that has affected generations of students. We don't believe in toilet paper in Italy. Which, I mean, to be fair, it is kind of a waste. Just you wash yourself with some water, but then you have to bring your own bucket to school, and that's even heavier than your own toilet paper. And you have to bring your own soap. In 2017, Cittadinanzativa, a nonprofit promoting citizen rights in Italy, reported that 47% of schools across the country lacked toilet paper and 64% lacked soap. The problem had not gone away since. Earlier this year, 277 parents in the city of Ferrara signed a petition asking the local student management to provide toilet paper in the city's primary schools. Yeah, asking a 2-year-old or a 7-year-old to remember to bring their toilet paper is they can't even remember to bring their homework. Italy doesn't invest that much in education. In fact, it spends much less on it than other European countries. That explains the populism. Adriana Bizzari of Cittadina Zativa told Euronews. This year, the country's spending on the public education sector was $7,000 per student in kindergarten and primary school, and up to $9,000 per student in high school. In other European countries, the average expenses is $10,000. That's the average. Shit. That's the average. They're below average. The country is now expected to spend part of the huge $109.5 billion EU Code Recovery Fund on the education sector, but we'll only see the results in 2026, said Bizzari, and part of this money is going to be spending fixing maintenance work on old infrastructure. Not all schools are the same, however. While the Italian education sector is generally underfunded, there are schools that are not struggling as much as others, and can easily provide the bare essentials to their students. That's because the Italian school system promotes the autonomy of each institute and its management, with the state granting funds according to how many students, professors, and staff members each school has. While the autonomy can be good, Bizzari said, it also allows for a situation where struggling schools have to resort to asking parents to help to fund the school. At the beginning of the school year and in September or October, schools can ask for voluntary contribution from parents, a one-time payment, whose sum can vary from school to school and is not regulated at a state level. Give us $10 million. This money should help schools offer better services to their students. While it's not mandatory, there are often a lot of social pressure on parents to help out. There's not an official price list, Bizzari said. There are primary schools who ask for €30, while middle schools can ask between 50 and 50. Why does it say between 50 and 50? That seems like a typo. In high school, this voluntary contribution can be between 100 and 180, she continued. These contributions can be significant, considering that Italy's school is free for students up to 16 years old. It's free, so we're not going to give you anything, okay? We don't have to try because it's free. What? I don't know. But the result of this voluntary contribution system is a deepening divide between wealthier and poorer schools, with the first benefiting from more generous contributions of higher income parents. While schools don't ask parents for money to buy toilet paper, in primary school they ask for funds to buy textbooks, pencils, drawing books, and so on. A primary school teacher in Sardinia told Euronews that teachers often spend their own money to buy supplies for the students. Italian school teachers are among the lowest paid in the EU. Adriana Bizzari of Cittadina Zativa said that the situation has appeared to improve after the COVID pandemic, with schools across the country putting more focus on hygiene, cleaning more, and even regular buying toilet paper. For years, the organization has fought schools to have soap and toilet paper. And what we found after the pandemic is that schools are paying more attention and are no longer asking families to buy toilet paper. Now we wait and see how long this will last. Not a lot of confidence there in the toilet paper and soap situation, I guess.
All right.
Oh, there you are. Okay, your story.
My story now, my phone's shut down.
Oh, that's what happened. Okay.
All right. In hurricane news, this is from Reuters. Josu de Calvilli. On Reuters, Mexico throws troops aid into Acapulco as hurricane death toll rises. Acapulco, New Mexico. Mexico's government on Sunday, intensified efforts to get the stricken coastal cities of Acapulco back on its feet as the toll of dead and missing from the record-breaking hurricane that ravaged the iconic beach resort continued to rise. Hurricane Otis ripped through Acapulco as a Category 5 storm on Wednesday, wrecking homes, hotels, and businesses with 165-mile-per-hour winds, which downed power lines and communications, leaving the city of nearly 900,000 inhabitants incommunicado. Looting broke out as food, water, and gasoline became scarce after destruction caused by Otis, which the government on Sunday said had killed 48 people with 6 people missing. The governor of southern state of Guerrero, where Acapulco is located, earlier said that 36 people were unaccounted for. A day early, this toll stood at 39 dead and 10 minutes missing. President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador said most of the cabinet was already in or headed to Acapulco and that he would return there later on Sunday for the recovery efforts of thousands of soldiers and police descended on the city. We're going to get Acapulco back on its feet, starting with its people, he said in a video on social media. Dozens of pieces of broken boats dotted the bay on Sunday with smashed yachts and dinghies piled up on the shore. Captain Alejandro Cortez, 66, abandoned his yacht when he saw the hurricane picking up speed. We ran, we jumped, and we left the ship all alone. He recounted from a pier where he gazed at the water, remembering the waves 7 meters high. And that's why I'm sitting here now. God gave me that decision, he added, pointing upward. Some fellow workers turned up alive, but the search is ongoing for others. There are many people that still haven't been found. Yeah, well, the 6 missing seems kind of low. The cost of damage could climb as high as $15 billion, according to estimates, and Lopez and Obrador said the ministers of the finance and the economy will be in Acapulco on Monday. He also invited the Mexican central bank governor to travel there. Residents in flooded areas have criticized the lack of government help. Many are struggling to find food and water. I was cleaned out and left with nothing, said Bianca Estela Morales, a wheelchair-bound 52-year-old staying in a government-run shelter after her home was flooded. This is really hard for me. We slept on the floor. We don't have water to wash with. The disaster struck Acapulco barely 7 months away from Mexico's next presidential election, and Lopez Obrador this weekend accused his critics of attacking his response to Otis and inflating its impact for electoral reasons. His fiery political broadsides triggered criticism that Lopez Obrador was downplaying the gravity of the disaster, even as families desperately searched for missing relatives and more drowned victims were recovered from Acapulco's bay. Former President Felipe Calderon, a long-standing adversary of Lopez Obrador, accused his administration of trying to exploit the situation by rebranding boxes of private aid contributions to Acapulco as government donations. Reuters could not immediately identify how boxes with such donations had been marked. Presidential spokesman Jesus Ramirez said Calderon was lying and accused some politicians and media outlets of trying to benefit from the tragedy. Okay, so they're already almost literally rolling around in the mud, as literal mud is all over the streets of Acapulco. Defense Minister Luis Crescendo Sandoval said about 5,000 National Guard members will be assigned to security and that the armed forces were taking control of the gas situations after Lopez Obrador asked them how efforts to stop looting were going. It was hugely important to take the gas stations, Sandoval said, because there could be even worse tragedy. So there's your update on about 1 million people suffering without any kind of public food or utilities. Public utility.
I wish there's public food. Hell yeah.
And maybe, and I guess we could spin the wheel while we're here on the.
Okay.
Gonna spin the squeal
of fortune. We're so behind. All right,
so
wheels on the screen now. Let's go ahead and press the spin button. There's only like 5 people left, so it's gonna be a big slice. With Ray Smith the Third is gonna be our new contestant here to see if he's gonna squeal.
All right, well, back to you.
Okay. I have 2 news stories here about the same thing, which is electronic vehicles, and the bike story is quite short, so I wanted to cover a larger story about EV cars as well. First news story is about a French company that has designed an e-bike that doesn't need a battery. This is from Ocean Dubois from Euronews Next. The brainchild of French entrepreneur Adrien Lelievre, the P-Pop, why did they name it that? Or the Pi Pop, like Pi 3.14, yeah, okay, there's literally the Pi signal, so Pi Pop. An e-bike uses a supercapacitor to store energy rather than rely on batteries. Yeah, I think I've seen this a lot on like maybe shorts and TikToks or social media somewhere, where they were like, wait, why don't we just pedal to power our bikes? Battery. Why can't we do that? And then somebody had to be like, well, that's not how the laws of physics work. You can't get more power than what you put in, blah, blah, blah. But if you have a supercapacitor, I guess you can. So if riding on a bike on a daily basis is too much of a challenge for you, you might be tempted to opt for an e-bike. The issue with those is that the production of the batteries consumes a lot of natural resources such as lithium or rare earth elements, which require extensive and often environmentally impactful mining procedures. French entrepreneur Adrien Lelievre, however, has engineered a pioneering sustainable solution. The inventor, who has a background in electronics, designed and patented an e-bike called the Pi Pop, one that doesn't use lithium batteries, but supercapacitors. The system gets charged when the ride is easy and when the bike brakes. Thanks to engine braking, the energy is given back when needed. He says, as the director of STEE, the company behind the bike, told Euronews Next. To put it simply, a supercapacitor works by stocking energy in an electrostatic way, or by ways of slow-moving charge. In contrast, a lithium battery stocks energy as a chemical reaction. In other words, a supercapacitor can stock and release energy very quickly when it is needed. In the case of its bike, it means it's stocking energy when the person pedals or brakes and using its assist more difficult actions like restarting or uphill riding. He estimates that the assistance offered by the rider by the bike's supercapacitor is enough to handle an elevation gain of 50 meters if charged on a flat beforehand, making it suitable for around 80% of European cities. The concept of a supercapacitor is not a new innovation in itself. The first ones were manufactured at the end of the 1970s. Today they are used in photovoltaic systems, such as solar panels, digital cameras, and some hybrid or electric vehicles to improve their performance. It made sense for him to use the technology in bikes. According to him, the 20 kg Pi Pop really is a symbol of sobriety. Always wanting more, meaning wanting to go faster, adding more energy, this is a dead end, he said. No rare earth materials are used in the bike's production, as supercapacitors are made of carbon, conducting polymer, aluminum foils, and pulp. Aluminum is a bit of it's not a rare earth material, but how you get it is not environmentally friendly. You just kind of dig holes in the ground and then collect a bunch of dirt. And pulp, materials for which recycling processes already exist. There's no need to wait for the bike to charge either. Another perk compared to the classic e-bikes. The company also claims that the superconductor's lifetime ranges from 10 to 15 years compared to a 5 or 6 for a lithium battery. The bike, now a third-generation design, is currently assembled in Orleans. Being locally produced in his native France was important for him, whose career was built in the French electronics industry. I think we can't innovate if we lose control of production, he said. When we talk about sustainable development, ecological transitions, and energy transitions, we need to provide the jobs, he added, whose company employs 25 people. Currently, Pi Pop produces 100 bikes a month. In the future, the company aims to produce 1,000 bikes monthly by 2024. He also has high European ambitions. In 2025, we want to target the European market. We are currently discussing potential fundraising, he said. Cracking this nut could be a huge opportunity for company as EU imported 1.2 million e-bikes and 5.2 million non-electric ones, 5 times the amount exported, according to the EU data agency Eurostat. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to start exporting to Denmark and the Netherlands, which has the highest bike populations in the entire world. So, and I can tell you now that there is a huge electronic bike trend right now in the Netherlands. Like, there's people who are my age and younger who are using e-bikes, which is not necessary because we have working muscles. They're originally for older people right, who are missing a hip. You know, they just don't have the power behind their legs anymore, so they need assistance so that they can bike. But now it's just, everyone has them now. Like, when I go to my accountant, she's like, wait, you didn't e-bike here? Because it takes me an hour to get to my accountant by bike. She's like, you didn't e-bike here? I don't understand. Why would you do such a thing to yourself? It's like, I'm 29. I'm not gonna die tomorrow. I can use a normal bike for an hour. But yeah, it's definitely a big trend right now. Speaking of electronic things, are EVs in cars actually even good for a lifetime of environmental protection? This is from Geraldine Herbert. Car makers are pledging billions to develop supposedly eco-friendly EVs, but the manufacturer is not carbon-free. How do they compare with ICE cars? Car makers are pledging billions to develop new battery electronic vehicles, BEVs, with expectations that more than 30 million of them will be on European roads by 2030. Electronic cars may generate no tailpipe emission, but the manufacturer of the vehicles and batteries still do contribute to carbon emissions. So just how clean are BEVs, and how do they stack up against traditional internal combustion engines, ICE cars, that run on petrol or diesel? Life cycle emissions are those created by production, use, and disposal of products. So for an electronic car, everything from the raw materials and the battery power sources to recycling and the reuse of vehicle at the end of life must be accounted for. The extraction, refinement, and transportation and manufacture of lithium-ion batteries is a very energy-intensive process, which means that emissions are higher in the production phase of battery electronic cars compared to ICE cars. While the manufacturing process for ICE cars may not be as high, it's still a significant carbon footprint. Reuters reported earlier in the year that Volkswagen and Toyota were aiming to be carbon neutral by 2050, while Hyundai Motor Group said Hyundai Motor and Kia were accelerating efforts to become carbon neutral. All new vehicles from the Mercedes-Benz will be net carbon neutral along the entire value chain by 2039, and General Motors plans to be carbon neutral by 2040 in its global production and operations. In contrast, Swedish company Polestar ambitiously aims to produce a net zero car by 2030 by identifying and limiting all carbon emissions from the extraction of raw materials to production through end-of-life handling. The carbon gap between BEV and ICE cars may be significant when a car is first sold, but during the lifetime on the road, ICE cars continue to emit CO2 while electric cars emit no emissions except for particulates from tires and brakes. According to research by Transport and Environment, TNE, the umbrella body for European NGOs promoting sustainability, an average EU electric car is close to 3 times better in terms of carbon emissions than an equivalent petrol or diesel car, and that gap continues to widen. The benefits of BEVs will only increase as the electric grid becomes greener, but only a BEV driven in Poland with the battery produced in China still emits 37% less CO2 than petrol. A reduction of 83% can be achieved with an electric car with a battery produced in Sweden and driven in Sweden. They also predict that the electric cars bought in 2030 will reduce CO2 emissions fourfold thanks to the EU electricity grid relying more and more on renewables. But what about the battery? The raw materials used in production of the batteries are one of the key factors in the price of BEVs and why they still remain more expensive than ICE equivalents. As battery technology improves, new alternatives to the standard lithium-ion chemistry will emerge. Potential alternatives to these raw materials are also being exposed, such as the development of new sodium-ion battery by CATL, or CATL, a Chinese battery giant. BYD, the world's largest maker of electrified vehicles, recognizes the importance of reducing the use of rare minerals in battery technology, and its Blade battery unit is produced without the use of cobalt. In the meantime, some more could be done to help reduce the environmental impact of mining. Reinvesting profits into local communities to support education and training will provide opportunities that often lie out of reach of people in developing countries. Like they're basically mining, but this is the only thing they can do. So they just keep mining, and then we're gonna sell this cobalt because we're all miners. One important step to reducing life cycle emissions from electric cars is recycling and reusing the battery. The European Commission's proposed regulation of batteries is the world's first ever sustainable battery law, which seeks not only to ensure ethical mining techniques, but also reduce the demand for mining by more effectively recycling the raw materials. In July, the Council of the EU adopted a new regulation that establishes the end-of-life requirements, including collecting targets and obligations. targets for the recovery of materials, and extended producer responsibility. This will go far in fostering a circular economy. Upon reaching their end of life in BEVs, batteries may be unsuitable to be reused in cars, but this creates a huge opportunity to reconfigure them for a second life, including electricity storage on the grid, and so lowering the overall battery production and carbon footprint. Another solution is to reuse what we already have with shortages of raw materials, are driving investment with battery recycling. The jury is still out, however, on how environmentally or economically sustainable this will prove to be, as the recycling process also has a high carbon footprint. There is an overwhelming evidence over the course of their driving lifetimes, BEVs create fewer carbon emission than ICE cars and are therefore better for the environment. More advanced battery technology and manufacturing techniques will continue to improve the lifetime of batteries, which will also result in extended lifetime for electric vehicles. Substantial challenges span the entire BEV life cycle, but it's worth remembering that the impact of the environmental of oil extraction for fuel is much greater. So there's your review on electric things and how electric things are good. Your story. If you don't disconnect again, that is.
Okay, well, we spun the Wheel of Fortune, so there's not a lot about Ray Smith the third. So here we go. Here. This is way back in August in Fox 5 Atlanta. Fulton County, who is Ray Smith? It's a local attorney of record indicted with defendant J. Trump. Atlanta-based Roy Smith III is a business, real estate, election, and probate litigation attorney with a national practice, according to his bio. He's a partner firm of the firm Smith & Liss, LLC. Smith was hired by defendant J. Trump, a local attorney of record. Smith earned a bachelor's of arts degree in political science and speech communications from the University of... Are you still there?
I'm still here. It's just I'm turning my camera off to hopefully make your connection better because your audio is...
Smith earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in political science and speech communications at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and his law degree from Mercer University School of Law. Is a member of the Atlanta, Sandy Springs, and Cobb County Bar Associations, the Federal Bar Association, the State Bar of Georgia, and the State Bar of South Carolina. Smith served as special assistant to the Attorney General for the state of Georgia and was appointed by Governor Sonny Perdue to the Governor's Committee of Sandy Springs, where he served as commissioner and vice chair. He was also appointed by 3 governors at the Stone Mountain Memorial Association and is currently serving as a 5th term as a board of governor. Additionally, he is the authority counsel to the Chattahoochee 911 Authority on the board council for the city of Brookhaven and Georgia Zoning Board of Appeals. He previously served to the Fulton County Board of Elections and Registrations. Okay, Smith is accused of advising the alternate GOP electors who met at the state capitol and cast votes for Trump and signed documents that falsely claimed Trump had won the election following the 2020 election. Smith reportedly sent a letter to his Georgia Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger, and submitted several affidavits supporting Trump as a winner. Smith also appeared before his state Senate committee investigating allegations of voter fraud shortly after elections. During his testimony, he repeatedly claimed that more than 130,000 legal votes had been cast during the 2020 election. He also testified that 2,506 felons have voted, along with 10,315 individuals were deceased. Basically just making the shit up. Charges for Smith include, here we go, violation of the Georgia RICO Act, solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, false statements and writings, solicitation of violation of oath by a public officer, conspiracy to commit impersonating a public officer, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, conspiracy to commit false statements or writing, conspiracy to commit false documents, conspiracy to commit forgery in the first degree, conspiracy to commit false statements in writing. Smith is married and has 2 children, so that's basically his biography. Not a whole lot of information on him. Seems to me like he's in a tough spot because I don't think he has a lot to squeal on, right? Other than being a lawyer and trying to basically lie about everything. So I don't know if he's got anything to squeal. Back to you.
Yeah, and also, I mean, yeah, you could go the route of many lawyers who just get taken down along, right? With the defender.
Yeah, I think he can plead guilty. I think he can plead guilty, but I don't know if he's going to be able to turn anything for Trump.
He can't make a squeal deal. He's just going to be guilty and then put in prison.
I think he can make one, but he'll be squealing on somebody else.
Yeah.
You're sorry.
Okay. Sad culture news today as we find out that over the weekend, Matthew Perry, Emmy-nominated Friends star, is dead at 54. Too young. This is from Your News Culture with AP. The show business site TMZ reported the television star had apparently drowned at his home in Los Angeles. Friends star Matthew Perry, the Emmy-nominated actor whose sarcastic but lovable Chandler Bing was among television's most famous and most quotable characters, has died at 54. The actor was found dead at an apparent drowning at his Los Angeles home Saturday, according to the Los Angeles Times and celebrity website TMZ, which was the first to report the news. Both outlets cited unnamed sources confirming Perry's death. Matthew was an incredibly gifted actor and an undeniable part of the Warner Bros. Television Group family, the company said in a statement. The impact of his comedic genius was felt around the world, and his legacy will live on in the hearts of so many. This is a heartbreaking day, and we send our love to his family, his loved ones, and all of his devoted fans. Perry's publicists and other representatives did not immediately respond to messages from the Associated Press seeking comment. Asked to confirm police responses to what was listed as Perry's home address, LAPD officer Drake Madison told AP the officers had gone to the block for a death investigation of a male in his 50s. Perry's 10 seasons on Friends made him one of Hollywood's most recognizable actors, starring opposite Jennifer Aniston, Courtney Cox, Matt LeBlanc, Lisa Kudrow, and David Schwimmer as a friend group in New York. As Chandler, he played the quick-witted, insecure, and erotic roommate of LeBlanc's Joey and a close friend of Schwimmer's Ross. During the show's hijinks, he could be counted on to chime in with a line like, "Could this be any more awkward?" or another well-timed quip. Perry wasn't open about his long public struggle with addiction, writing at the beginning of his 2022 million-selling memoir, "Hi, my name is Matthew. Although you may know me by another name, my friends call me Maddie, and I should be dead." Friends ran from 1994 until 2004, winning one Best Comedy Series Emmy Award in 2002. The cast notably banded together for later seasons to obtain a salary of $1 million per episode for each. By the Friends finale, Chandler is married to Cox's Monica, and they have a family reflecting the journey of the core cast from the single New Yorkers trying to figure out their lives, to several of them married and starting families. The series was one of television's biggest hits and has taken on a new life, and found surprisingly popularity with younger fans, and in recent years on streaming services. Perry described reading the Friends script for the first time in his memoir, Friends, Lovers, and Big Terrible Thing. It was as if someone had followed me around for a year, stealing my jokes, copying my mannerisms, photocopying my world-weary yet witty view of life. One character in particular stood out to me. It wasn't though I thought I could play Chandler, I was Chandler. Unknown to at the time was a struggling Perry who had addiction and intense desire to please audiences. Friends was huge. I couldn't jeopardize that. I loved the script, I loved my co-actors, I loved the scripts. I loved everything about the show, but I was struggling with my addiction, which only added to my sense of shame, he wrote in his memoir. I had a secret and no one could know. I felt like I was gonna die if the live audience didn't laugh, and that's not healthy for sure. But I could sometimes say a line and the audience wouldn't laugh, and I would sweat and sometimes go into convulsions, Perry wrote. If I didn't get the laugh I was supposed to get, I would freak out. I felt that every single night. This pressure left me in a bad place. I also knew of the 6 people making the show. Only one of them was sick. He recalled in his memoir that Aniston confronted him about being inebriated while filming. "I know you're drinking," he remembered her telling him. "We can smell it," she said. in what Perry called a kind of weird but loving way, and the plural we hit me like a sledgehammer. In the foreword to Perry's memoir, Lisa Kudrow described him as a whip, smart, charming, sweet, sensitive, very reasonable, and rational. She added, that guy with everything he was battling was still there. HBO Max reunion special in 2021 was hosted by James Corden and fed into a huge interest in seeing the cast together again, although the program consisted of the actors discussing the show and was not a continuation of their character storylines. Perry received 1 Emmy nomination for his friend's role and 2 more for the appearance as an associate White House counsel on The West Wing. Perry also had several notable film roles starring opposite Salma Hayek in the rom-com Fools Rush In and Bruce Willis in the crime comedy The Whole Nine Yards. He worked consistently after Friends, though never in a role that brought him as much attention or acclaim. In 2015, he played Oscar for a CBS reboot of The Odd Couple that aired for 2 seasons. He told the AP that playing Oscar Madison, the character originally made famous in the 1960 series by Walter Matthau, was a dream role. He also said he was surprised how much he enjoyed being filmed again in front of a live audience. I didn't realize I missed it really until it was actually happening. Till we actually shot the pilot and there was a studio audience there, and I realized, wow, I really like this. This is nice. You kind of ham it up for people in the audience. My performance never got better than when we had an audience there. Perry was born August 19th, 1969 in Williamstown, Massachusetts. His father's actor John Bennett Perry and his mother Suzanne served as a press secretary for the Canadian Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau and is married to Dateline correspondent Keith Morrison. So there's your short but sad news about Matthew Perry. Yeah, he's had a tough life, and it sucks to go out that way at a reported drowning.
That's true.
Yeah.
But on the positive side of your life, because I was driving around my car yesterday and they broke in with the breaking news that Matthew Perry had died. I was like, wow, it's sad, but you know what? They're not going to break in the news that would report my death.
Yeah.
They're going to break all programming with the ABC special report. I was like, whoa, what happened? And I was like, an actor died. And I'm like, oh, that's really, it's really sad, but man, at least he gets the breaking news his death,
Yeah.
There's worse ways to go.
Legacy. He's got a legacy.
That's right. We remember him. This day in history, in the year 130, the Roman Emperor Hadrian, famously known for his Hadrian's Wall in Scotland, officially founded the city of Anatopolis in ancient Egypt. City of Pronounce in ancient Egypt. In 1340, an allied force of Castilian and Portuguese Christians defeated the Muslim Marinids of North Africa at the Battle of Rio Salado. 1340. In 1895, skipping ahead in history, German bacteriologist and pathologist Gerhard Domig, recipient of the 1939 Nobel Prize, was born. In 1905, Emperor Nicholas II issued the October Manifesto, bringing an end to the unlimited autocracy in Russia and ushering in an era of constitutional monarchy. In this day in 1938, Orson Welles' radio dramatization of H.G. Wells' War of the World was broadcast, causing great alarm through reports of nationwide panic were unfounded, as some listeners feared a genuine invasion of Mars. Let's do that again. Let's have people freaking out about Mars invading. I think that'll be cool. In 1961, on this day, the Soviets detonated Tsar Bomba over Novaya Zemlya island in the Arctic Ocean, the largest nuclear weapon ever set off, and produced the most powerful human-made explosion ever recorded. In 1974, Muhammad Ali knocked out George Foreman in the Rumble in the Jungle in Zaire, regaining the world's heavyweight boxing title. And in 1995, voters in Quebec narrowly defeated a referendum that proposed sovereignty for the province within a new economic and political partnership with the rest of Canada. but they didn't get that. So they've been pissed ever since. 2003, American basketball player LeBron James debuted for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That was 20 years ago today. In 2018, American crime boss Whitey Bulger, who, as the head of the Boston area Winter Hill Gang, was leading figure in organized crime from the late 60s and mid-90s, was beaten to death by his fellow inmates while in prison. So Whitey Bulger, famously played by Jack Nicholson in The Departed, played Whitey Bulger, famous, was beaten to death in prison. Kind of a fitting end to a thug. And as our featured event, 1485, Henry Tudor was crowned King of England. Henry Tudor, that's right, on this day was crowned Henry VII. Founded the Tudor dynasty, ended the War of the Roses, used his children's marriages to build alliances, and signed treaties that increased England's power. Feature biography today is born this day, October 30th, 1735, John Adams, the second president of the United States. He also famously died on July 4th, 1826, at the age of 90, the same day as Thomas Jefferson. They died the same exact day. Birthdays today: Ezra Pound, American poet, born 1885. Ruth Gordon, American writer and actress, born 1896. Homa Bhabha, Indian physicist, was born in 1909. Louis Maillet, French director, born in 1932. And Diego Maradona, Argentine soccer player, born in 1960. So he is 63 today. A little old for a soccer player. What day is it today? Besides National Wicked Day, it's World Audio Drama Day. I want to start an audio drama. That'd be kind of cool. National Publicist Day, and you'd think we know more about that. Publicists are not doing their job. Speak Up for a Service Day, and it's National Candy Corn Day. Yes, the candy you love to hate. It's National Candy Corn Day. That's it. That's all. Back to you if you're still there.
I'm still here.
All right.
This has been Allison here from the Netherlands, where we have changed our clocks, and we'll excitedly find out when our clocks are on the same wavelength again. Because
It'll be next.
Because I'm an hour behind. Sunday. And we'll see you tomorrow for Good News Tuesday. Hopefully, some good news to share, because today we had some good news about electronic cars being superior and bikes not needing batteries. So hope to see you tomorrow for Tuesday.
That's right. And this is Roger, United States, for this day's edition of the Comprehensive News of Planet Earth on Before Coffee on October 30th, 2023. Before Coffee.
Be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and notify buttons, and follow our other channels, Toxic Alley, History of Gravy, and Scratchy Old Records.